Okay, Assalamu alaikum, welcome back or welcome first time. So today, inshallah, I want to introduce what the course is all about, what is the main content of the course, the assessment, how you'll be assessing this course, and some tips to make it smooth and a successful journey. I want to move, but at the same time, I want to get a good quality recording, so I need to stay a bit in this side. Okay. So my name is Abdul Karim Aradi. My office number is in office 132, just near the office area. This is tentatively, I have not requested. I will request from our admin your schedule so I can set a time that is more convenient to all of you. But for now, it's Sunday 12:20 to 1:30. If there is a quick question, you can ask me after class. I'll be setting a team on Teams or a group in Teams so we can have a discussion there. So try to, as much as possible, avoid emails and use Teams or some other issue tracking that I will explain later on. So let's kind of reduce emails as much as possible. Okay, so in terms of goals, what do you think? What could be the goals of this course or the objectives? Any idea what you're expecting from this course?
Just coding.
Learn new language of coding. Why do we need this coding? Why new language?
To create the website, I think, because it's code development.
Okay, very good. So, okay, very good. Yes. So we will, in this course, of course, it's all about designing, developing, testing web applications. And we will learn set of languages to help us do this. Now, maybe some of you mentioned Java. We will not use Java. It's a bit out of date, kind of. We will use some other language. Someone mentioned it. JavaScript. HTML, we will see. HTML is for creating the user interface, creating the pages. It's not a really programming language. It's just a language to describe the content of the page. Not really a programming language. It's called a markup language to describe the content of the page. Somebody mentioned CSS. What do we use CSS for? For styling, making the page look nice, improving the aesthetic and the user experience of the page. And then JavaScript. So these three are a must for you to call yourself a web developer. It's not an optional thing. It's a must, 3 of them. It's not okay, no, I will just learn HTML. You can learn HTML, but you cannot call yourself a web developer until you know and master and practice these 3 basic technologies. HTML, what HTML is for? Describing the page concept and structure, not layout. The layout is done by CSS. The layout is how the positioning of the elements or the positioning of the UI elements or the UI parts. Let's say this is a menu, this is a footer, this is a, let's say, a form. The layout is done by CSS, not HTML. Anyway, we'll see this in more details. And so HTML is to describe the page, the content of the page. CSS is to make it look nice. And JavaScript is to make it work. Sorry? The backend, scary names. I'm not sure what this backend is. Let's start simple first. So JavaScript is to make the page interactive. What do I mean by make the page interactive? Sorry?
That can actually respond properly to user input.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, is to basically when the user does some action on the page, you want the page to react and do something. For example, I'm sure you have seen this. You may see a table on a page, and on the columns of the table, you can click and the table gets sorted. Have you seen this behave somewhere? That sorting taking place on that page, who does that sorting? The JavaScript that is part of that page. Is clear? So you need the three of them. Three of them. And here, the choice is very simple. You don't have any choice. You have these three technologies already decided by our predecessors, our past developers. خلاص قضي الأمر. Just learn them, use them, finish. Cannot challenge it or do something about it. خلاص, you have these three technologies, learn them, practice them, master them. And this is the first part of the course. Yes, please. Want to say something? Sorry, can you see?
Is it possible to, maybe not in this course, but in general,
In
to
general.
use Python instead of JavaScript?
Okay, so to answer this question, before we answer this question, we need to understand a very fundamental concept in this web development. So let's say when we go to www.qu.edu.qa, so how do we access this page, the QU website? How do we access it? We go to our browser and we type in the address, yes? And then what do we get? We get a page. Now, if you look at the code behind it, what you'll find in that code behind the page? You never done this? You're not very curious? Look, if you go www.qu.edu.qa, it is the home page. I'm using a web browser and I'm accessing the home page. Now, I hope you have done this before. You can just go here and view page source. What I will see when I do view source? What is in that code? The three things. What are these three things? The HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. Don't be too scared. Don't worry. It looks a bit scary, and we will learn most of this stuff. Okay, so this is basically the HTML stuff. This is some CSS to make it look nice. And definitely there is some kind of JavaScript somewhere. There's a little bit of JavaScript in here. Don't worry. So basically, on the page itself, on the browser, we call the browser the client side. The client side. On the client side, what are the three technologies we use and we need to learn and use to create this page that you see here? The three technologies: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Is clear? And the role of each one, the role of HTML, describe the structure and the content of the page. And the role of CSS, styling, make it look nice, make it look user-friendly, intuitive, and so on, and aesthetically appealing. Okay, and then JavaScript. What you see here, there is some JavaScript going on here. Let me see. I was hoping to see just a simple one to illustrate. You know, oh yes, here. Can you see here? When I click on this, see? When I click, this is the carousel kind of user interface. And when I click in this, I get different images. Who is doing this animation and this hiding the previous image and showing the new one? This is JavaScript taking place on the client side, doing this interaction. So the JavaScript makes the page interactive. It can react to user actions. When they click a button or type something, you can write some code to react to this action. Is clear? Now, this page you see here, when I type this address and hit enter, what happened? How this page came along? Okay, very good. Anyway, it's a bit scary answer, but it's fine. So you see here, you type in here this name, this URL here, this address. This address is basically a human kind of memorizable or human meaningful name. So it's easy. You see, when I told you, well, if you want to look up the programs offered by QU, you go to qu.edu.qa. Okay, so it's easy for me to remember. So now this name, QU went to some what they call domain name provider. I'm sure maybe if you use Google, YouTube, sometimes you get this advertising. GoDaddy, if you have seen this ad, asks you like, you have an idea, we have the domain. Have you seen this ad? Anyway, it comes to me, I'm not sure, because you know the ads are different based on what you look at. So they always come and say, oh, you have the idea, we have the domain. So you go, let's just see what's in there, just to show many domain names, of course. This is a business. So there are companies, that's their job. I want to, let's say I want to create a website for our course. I will just go CMPS 350. Let's just search. If somebody have used this in their name. Now they are searching. Oh, there is. We can only pay $1 per year and we can get this domain. So this domain, I can now, whenever I want to say, okay, I have some nice content for you to look at, I'll give you this nice, easy to remember name. I can choose whether it's .com or .gov or online or club. So basically this domain name provider will give me a name. And then I'll go ahead and associate this name with an IP address. So if those of you not familiar with this, you will, of course, see this in the networking course. So, you know, the internet is made up of many computers connected together in a like a global network. And each computer on this network has an address. It's not like our human address, like let's say 50 University Street, Doha, Qatar. This is an address that we use for us as kind of humans. But for networks, the address is made up of some numbers, and those numbers are called an IP address. Okay, so for example, let me just see if I can do this. Not sure. Let me see. www.uu.edu.qac. You see, this www.qu.edu.qa, this is the name, domain name. It's a human-friendly name. We can easily memorize it, makes sense to us. But that's the corresponding address, IP address of QU server, of QU machine, where this website is running. This is the address of it on the internet. Let me see if I can copy this. Copy. Go here and put this one. And you can see here it went to QU website. So here, you're not going to give your friend or your grandmother or somebody, family member, this number. Much harder to memorize. It will take me years to memorize. 10.100.115.20. Much harder. We are, but you know, for us, it's much easier to have some kind of meaningful name. Okay, so to make it short, so when you create a website and you are ready to make it available to the world, you go and get a domain for it. And usually this domain has a meaning, and usually it has the name of the organization. Like let's say aljazeera.com, qnb.com.qa. You get a name. These names are coming from where we can get these names? From domain name providers, such as this GoDaddy. You go and buy a domain and you pay for it every year. Now this domain, you will associated with an IP address. And usually this IP address is static. You know, when you go in your home, you have maybe an internet connection with Ooredoo or Vodafone. So your router will get an address. So when you are connecting to the internet, you get an address every time. But that address change maybe every few hours or few days. But in here, you need the static IP address, an address that is always fixed. So you go to Ooredoo and you say, give me a fixed IP address. Of course, usually maybe they will not give it to individuals. They will give it to organizations. So QU went to Ooredoo and got this address. Yes. And this address is associated with what? With the domain name. So when I type here, when I go and type qu.edu.qa, what will happen? When I type this on the browser, what happens? It will look up some kind of program out there or some kind of database out there on the web and translate this name, this domain name to what? To an IP address, and use that IP address to connect to the server where that website happened to be running. Yes? Anyway, this is not super important. It's good to understand, but for developers, this is enough. You will go deeper into this in the networking course. Yes? So what the main lesson we learn from here is that in web development, we have two major parts. What are these two major parts? Client side and the server side. Thank you very much. The client side and the server side. The server side of a website, another name for it, the back end, is the front end, which is the client side, and there is the back end. Yes, it's just a term. Don't make it scare you. Okay, I think you are now ready to see the roadmap of the course. This will make a lot of sense. Here is what the course is all about. So you will have two parts. You will start with the client side, which is also known as front end development. In this front end, the client side, what are the technologies you need to use? HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Is clear? Now the back end, what does the back end do? Sorry. It basically provides some content. It generates some content. So for example, if you go to Banner and you say, give me my schedule. Give me the schedule of this semester. It gives you what courses you've taken, with which instructor, and what is the room number and the time. Yes? So where is that information stored? I mean, the courses you're enrolled into, the instructor of those sections, the room number, where is that information stored? Some kind of database, some kind of database on the ITS servers. And then basically when you go and say mybanner.qu.edu.qa/my-schedule, of course you log in, it knows, the system knows who you are, and goes and look up that database and get your schedule, write it into HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and push it to you to view on the browser. Yes? So the backend is more about programming. So reading from some data source and creating some content. Yes, it's clear? Now, for reading and writing to some data source, writing, for example, you add a course, you add a section to your schedule, you drop a section. So you are writing to some kind of database. So next time you come, the system remembers what sections you have enrolled into. Yes? So in the backend, you have the freedom to use any language you wish. There's no restriction in here. You can use C++, .NET, C#, Python, JavaScript, any other language. No problem. As long as when you create a content and push it to the client, how that content should be written, in which format? HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Client side does not understand anything else except these three. Is clear? Now, the good news is, do we have the choice whether to learn JavaScript or not to learn it? To call ourselves web developers? No choice. You must learn it to get that title in your CV and inshallah, okay, in your job title. Must learn it. The good news is, what is the good news? What do you think? Sorry?
One option.
Very good. So very good. Sometimes choice brings a little bit of pain, and you may even bring your flower and start saying which one I will go for, or ask other people. In here, the choice is already defined on the client side. Now, on the server side, you have a lot of choices. Now, guess what? In this course, what do you think? Which choice we will go for? JavaScript. We will use JavaScript on both sides, on the client side and on the server side. This is a very popular choice. Plus, why do we do it in this course? Why do we use the same language on both sides? Yeah, basically, it will give you the opportunity to master the language. Okay, so JavaScript is one of the top languages out there. So maybe let's see if we can see some kind of programming languages ranking. Let's see, a lot of ranking. Python, JavaScript. You see here, one of the top languages. So any investment you put in this language is not wasted. That's what I want to say here. Super important language. You can use it for many things. Let's see, there are many ranking. Which programming language is the JavaScript is the most popular? Sometimes it's either number one or number two. Super important. Now, in the backend, in a real world, in the backend, usually people use either JavaScript or Python, or maybe a bit of .NET. Those are the famous ones. Of course, you can use other languages, but these are the most common ones. In our case, we will use JavaScript on both sides. Is clear? So the first part of the course will be about what? What will be the first part of the course? It's all about the front end. It's all about how to create the UI, how to make it look nice, and how to respond to user actions. Yeah. The second part is all about the backend. What do we do in the backend? Yes, we create dynamic content. What do I mean by dynamic? What is the opposite of dynamic or the static? So what does it mean? What's the difference between static and dynamic? Static is fixed, does not change with time. Yeah. And dynamic, change with time. You go a few minutes after, change. For something like, let's say Al Jazeera, is it static website or dynamic? Of course, it's dynamic. Every few minutes there is a piece of new news. So when you go to Al Jazeera, let's say .net, you know, they have their sahafiyin, journalists, yes? And they collect these news pieces or news articles, and they type them in. And that they have some kind of interface somehow, and they push that article to a database. Yes? And maybe there is some senior journalist, they may review and then click approve, push it to the public to see. So it goes to some database. When you go to Al Jazeera, content is not already it's not static. So we read it from some kind of database and then produce a page. And we push that page to the client. Yes. Now the content that get generated, which format it will be generated in? These three. So whatever you push to the client must be HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Is clear? Now, on the client side, we have something called Web API. Web API, you can think of it as some kind of function that you can call remotely. You can call and get some results. Yep. And we will see how to do with what this web API is. We will see how to use it. We will use this this runtime or this engine, JavaScript engine, that runs on the server. So initially, when JavaScript was invented, it used to run only in the browser. Okay, and then some smart people took the engine inside the browser that runs JavaScript, took it outside the browser, and gave the freedom to JavaScript to run outside the browser. And that opens so many opportunities. So now JavaScript is no longer just a small little language to make the page interactive, but you can use it to do whatever you wish. It's a full-featured programming language, similar to any other language like Java or C# or Python. Yes, and it can run outside the browser. So we will see how to use it to create what is known as Web API, that we will see how it will work. We'll see how to read and write to some database. Now in here, we will not start from scratch. Nobody starts from scratch these days. We will use some libraries that are already out there, super popular, and we will use them to make our job easier. Yeah, such libraries will be Express, Prisma for reading and writing, and then for creating dynamic content. Dynamic content, what I mean, let's say the news articles I told you. Like a news article will have, let's say, a title, some content, some associated images, some associated videos, maybe stored in a database. We read it from a database, and then, or a file, and then we produce from it an HTML page. We can do that, of course, from scratch ourselves, but there are sophisticated libraries. One of them is very popular called Next.js, a library that will make this task easier. Is clear? Now, in the real world, if you are in a small team, small website, you will maybe work on both sides. If you are in a large team, a large organization, a complex project, you may take one of the roles. Either you will be a front-end developer or a back-end developer. Yes. If you do both, what you will be your title? Full stack developer. Okay. And there are job opportunities for all of them. So you can say front-end developer jobs. Web development. You will find senior front-end, senior front-end, or you can have back-end .NET Core backend developer, or we'll have full stack developer. Okay, these are the 3 job titles out there. So you can specialize in one of them. So in here on the front end, these are more people that are a bit scared of coding. They can do a little bit of coding, but not too much. But they are like, maybe they have more artistic skills. They can make things look nice. Okay, they are more kind of towards the design. So they go for front end. Back end, they have very poor artistic skills or making things look nice, but they are very good in coding. So they might go for back end, let's say. Or if they like both, they go for full stack web developer. And depend on the team, as I told you. Small projects, you will do all. Medium or large projects, you may specialize. Is clear what the course is all about? Yes? Okay. Very important course. Why? Why is it very important? Thank you. Everything there is no day that passes by without us somehow going to some web page to do something. And by the way, even mobile apps. Some mobile apps, it may look like a mobile app, but really it is a web app. It is developed using the same web technologies that we will cover in this course. Even if it is an iOS app, like an Apple app, or it is Android app, still the back end is a web-based. So your app will talk to the server using some web technologies. So, super important. Now, definitely you will need it for your project. You will need it for your professional work. Many of the graduates have end up working in this domain. So it's super critical course. I really encourage you to do your best to really invest the needed time to master those skills and build your skills. We will start slowly, build the foundation, but the pace and the depth will go up. So if you don't catch up and you kind of stay behind, you will have problems. Yeah, so you really need, this is a different course, a very practical course. You need to build your hands-on as we move forward. Don't fall behind. Keep up the good work from day one. You will make it. Inshallah, you will make it. You will enjoy it. Any questions so far on this? The overall idea of the course? Yes, please. Yeah.
You say that they look like maybe like mobile application, maybe the presentation is different, but can we say like the back end development is still the same because all the web interaction?
Yes. So the back end is still the same, and as I said, even the front end. I mean, the app looks like an app, but really it is built within HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Many applications are like that. We will not see this in this course. But what I want to say is mastering these skills, you can target web platform and you can target mobile. Maybe the user experience will not be as optimal as it can be when you create a mobile app using specialized programming languages such as Android and Kotlin, or iOS and what language they use? Objective-C or some other, the language they use for that. If you use specialized language, of course, you can have a more silky, more kind of more performant UI, but you can build the full mobile app just using web technology. The key idea here, those skills are reusable beyond the web pages. You can even build desktop apps using these technologies. And the backend, definitely, same technologies for both the web and the mobile. It's clear? I hope. Don't tell me, oh, I'm not going to be a web developer. I just want to pass this course and move on. Believe me, you will need those skills. First of all, if you have friends or families, if they want to build some little page or little app, who they will think of? You, because you are the computer science graduate. Plus, even if you say I will be just managing, I'm not going to do coding, even for your own tasks, you could create small apps to make your life easier and automate some of the tasks. So, for example, before, maybe many years ago, I was like a senior projects coordinator. Then I built small websites where students can apply for senior project. The grading is done there. So instead of when I took over, it was all manual. Everything needs to go through the coordinator. It takes so much time. Well, my time, for example. It's not my job to create that app, but I created it to make my job much easier. You see what I mean? So those skills really, really needed. So I hope you see the importance of this. All right, so moving on, these are the topics that will be covered. You can see there's a lot of content. That's because we want to kind of make this course heavy. It's just the nature of it. Of course, we already split this course into two, by the way. There's two parts of this course. There's this one, and there is an elective course called CMPS 356, web engineering, web design and development. Yeah, web design and development. There you can go deeper, much deeper. Okay, but this is the core course, and believe me, you will need those skills. If you go to any senior project, ask them, you will see most of them are building some kind of web interface for their solution. Yeah, so really needed skills, and lots of opportunities out there for this. All right, so the first week and a half will be HTML. HTML is quite easy, we go through it quickly. Then CSS, a little bit more depth. Again, in this course, we will follow the 20-80 rule. What do we mean by this 20-80 rule? Yeah, one way of looking at it, that's good way. But 20, I'll do my best to basically squeeze the most important 20% of the content that you really need to get started and build something meaningful. So CSS, if we want to spend the whole semester just on CSS, of course we cannot afford that. So we select the most important features to focus on, and those will be enough to get you started in a meaningful way. Of course, as you develop, as you gain more experience, you go into the other 80% less used, interesting in some cases. Same thing for JavaScript, same thing for HTML. We will not be able to comprehensively cover the whole thing. We'll cover the most important parts to build something meaningful. So even if you find it as we go kind of overwhelming, believe me, it's only part of the story. And as I said many times, can we call ourselves web developers just by HTML? No. Maybe if you learn the first two, you will be maybe a web designer, but not a web developer. Okay. Web design is something different. So some people, they go to design degree, a graphic designer. It's not, they are totally scared of any coding. It's just looking like designing how the UI will look like and making it look aesthetically nice. They cannot approach the code. So in here, to call ourselves web developers, we have to master these skills. So don't basically, you might, as I said, if you keep up, you go through the material we cover, you apply in the lab, you do your assignments, you contribute to your project, you will build your skills as we move on. You start from scratch, no problem. Keep up the good work, you will make it. You this is not type of course where, okay, the week of the exam or a few days before the exam, I'll go and quickly study and I'll make it. That's not this course. You need to build your skills gradually. And it's like a stack. That's why we call it full stack development. It's layers, each build on top of the other. So I hope it's clear. So let us move on. So the first 3 weeks will be on HTML and CSS. Then we will spend another 2 weeks on JavaScript, the basics of JavaScript. And then we will see how to use JavaScript on the client side and JavaScript on the server side. And on the server side, we will see how we can read and write to some kind of database. And we will learn how to create dynamic content, on the server side. And finally, maybe a little bit of security. Most of applications, when you use them, you need to log in. Based on your login, you get different privileges or different actions. For example, you log into Blackboard, you can only see the grade and the content. You cannot change the grade, you cannot post new content. When I log in as instructor, I can change the grade and I can post new content. Yes? So that's what's known as authentication and authorization. So kind of 1/3 1/3 of the course, or almost half on the client side, and the remaining on the servers. What is the core skill in here? The core skill that you will build in this course from the table of contents. Which one? What is the king of this whole story? JavaScript. It's very clear. Very clear. That's the JavaScript. You will be JavaScript developer, inshallah, by the end of this course. Okay, here are some of the textbooks that are recommended for this course. These are freely available on QU website, on QU library. So here I give you some instructions on how to do it. It's very simple. Go and access this web page and choose this institution not listed. Click in there. It will ask you to log in using your QU email and password, and you can get free access to these 2 books. Okay. Now here is the assessment subject to discussion. I'll be discussing with the other instructors and lab instructors, but this is what I'm suggesting this time. So to kind of force you to continuously work on the course. So you will have every 2 weeks, basically 1 week you will have a lab assignment, small one, kind of some lab assignment that you submit every second week. And the week that you are not having a lab assignment, what do you have? A quiz. Okay. So you will always be alert and ready for this course. Very important. Quiz is simple, maybe 10 minutes. Hopefully we can do it online. So it's easy to grade. Click, 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 and you get your grade. It's just to make sure you are reviewing and studying as we go. This is the first time we're trying this. Because sometimes we just put final midterm. Okay, you do a lot of practice, but you ignore the fundamentals and the theoretical parts and the lectures. So in here, you will basically keep up with both. Of course, yeah, of course. And by the way, we wish to make it all project. And you know, QU policy, you have to have diversified assessment tools. You cannot just use one. And of course, we unfortunately, maybe not in this class, sometimes we have some free riders. You maybe catch them if they kind of escape through the homework, catch them in the midterm or in the quiz or something. But hopefully we don't have these cases here. Is clear? So we'll have 6 quizzes. The top 5 will be yes, please. Yes, this project not in the lab. Sorry.
And lab?
No. Lab, there is assignments. Assignment means every 2 weeks you have practiced. Let's say the first 2 weeks you will do HTML. By the end of the 2 weeks, I try to encourage the lab instructors. One of the exercises of the lab, the last exercise, is the assignment. So you will start it on the lab, you finish it, and you submit it to them. They will discuss with you the details. I want to give them the free. I'm not going to control how they run it, but we will discuss with them and encourage them to keep the load reasonable. So this all load reasonable for everyone. We know you don't have only this course. You have many other things. Basically, the key message here: assign some time for this to study and to practice as you go. Then you will not have a problem. So the project will be 2 parts. First part and second. Usually I do my best for the second part. I'll take the best submission, clean it up and make it better, and then give it to you as the base for the second part. So you can learn from it more. And for those teams that didn't manage to do a good job, they can have a good base to start the second part. Yes? Any questions? Yes, please. No coding, no code. So basically, the way it works, the midterm and the final exam more conceptual. You may be asked, some code is given to you, let's say, and you'll be asked to write it in a different way, in a better way, for example. Or some code will be given to you and you'll be asked to provide the output of that course, of that code. So there's no kind of full coding in the quizzes or lecture exams. Yeah. So because there's enough coding in the project and the lab assigned, this is all about coding. In fact, all of this is open book, open, everything open in the exam. So you have time constraints. You really need to be well trained to deliver what is being asked from you in the midterm and the final in the 2 hours, that's 2-3 hours that you will have. Everything is open. Examples, slides, everything is open. Of course, in here, it is not open. These 3 not open. Yeah, these 3. Not memorizing, just express using your own words what you understood. All right, clear? Okay, moving on. So this is how you want to do well. Read the slides beforehand. Read the textbook if you can, especially the muhsinun. You need to read the textbook. Ad'aful iman is the slides. Go through the examples, try to rerun them, try to reproduce them, try to improve them and enhance them. So try to understand the example, run it, and build it from scratch yourself. And add your own spices, your own extensions. Do the lab, contribute to the project, start early. If you have a problem, come to office hour, send a message. If you have a problem, don't sit on it and think it will be resolved by itself. There's no such thing. If something is not clear, come on office hours, come on Teams, come on. This is the hasanat of COVID. Anytime, send a message. We have a quick chat, quick video call, or no problem. Very quick, we can resolve the issue. Okay. Don't outsource anything. Do everything yourself and build your skills. This is your responsibility. It's your amana. You really need to really do it yourself. Like swimming, I always emphasize on this. Like swimming, you cannot learn it just by listening to me or listening to some videos or reading. You must do it to learn it. Simple. This some of the software we'll be using. VS Code, the most popular code editor. We used to use WebStorm, Khalas Finish. We will be using VS Code, and we'll be using everything is open source. Everything is free to use. Everything will be on GitHub. I will explain this next session, inshallah. Everything on GitHub. On Blackboard, you will only have one link to take you to GitHub. And when we have the grades, I'll put them. That's all I use the Blackboard for. All communication will be using Teams. I will set up one group in Teams and all the communication in there. You can send me a message on Teams, or you can post it as an issue on the lecture on GitHub. So try to avoid emails as much as possible. Yeah. Okay. This is the main message if you want to do well in this course. This is the main message. Start early and build your skills and do things yourself. Very critical. Now, sometimes we have some free riders. They just kind of take advantage, and the team is working so hard and they just have a free ride. This is not acceptable. But the problem is some teams, when there is some member not contributing, they will tell me one day or the submission date. It's too late, I can't do much. And it will affect your grade. So if there is a problem, let me know early. I can say, okay, we give the chance to this free rider, please wake up and contribute. Otherwise, your scope will be reduced and you work, let's say, as 2, and the other member will have a part of the project to deliver by themselves. Otherwise, if you don't report it or report it at the last minute, I can't do much. And it's unfair to kind of punish them at the last minute. So let me know early so I can do some hopefully encourage them to wake up and do things themselves. So do everything yourself. Please try your best not to use other people's efforts or code. That's all we have for today. Any question? I already posted this on GitHub. Everything is already on GitHub. You will, those of you not familiar with GitHub or never used it, you will see it in the first session, the lab session, inshallah, this week. And that's how you will deliver your assignment. That's how you will deliver your project. Everything in GitHub. And this is how professionals work in a real world project. So this is super important to get familiar with GitHub. Any questions? All clear? All right, thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum. Next time, inshallah.